بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وبارك على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد حياكم الله إخوة بارك الله فيكم. Alhamdulillah, after a couple of weeks break, we return back to the text of ʿUmdatul Fiqh, obviously with slightly different format, different day, and it's the first of the two evening lessons. But ala kulli hal, we will still be going through the same text as where we left off, and that is Allah Ta'ala alam. That is from the next chapter or the next section of Kitab al-Hajj, which is Bab al-Dukhul al-Makkah, the chapter pertaining to the entry of Makkah. Now, here, Ibn Qudāmah raḥimahullah, he mentions the chapter heading as the Dukhul al-Makkah, entry into Makkah. However, what he goes on and he proceeds to explain is essentially the Sifatul Umrah, the description of the Umrah itself. And all of this can be regarded as inclusive of the entry into Makkah. When an individual enters into Makkah, that they perform Umrah, that they perform the Umrah. And what they perform, the action of the Umrah will be the Ṭawāf and the Sa'i. And after that, the person may shave the head. And this all, of course, depends upon what are the manasik that they're performing, or what type of Hajj are they performing, or is it just Umrah itself that they're performing? Naam. And so all of this is comprehensive of the entry into Makkah. Naam. Whether, irrespective of the person enters into Makkah and he is performing Hajj al-Tamattu', he will perform these particular actions. Whether he's entering into Makkah and he's performing Hajj al-Qiran, he will do the same thing. Whether he's entering into Makkah and he's performing the Hajj al-Ifrad, or if he's entering into Makkah and he's performing Umrah, just alone. And so, this is what we understand from this discussion here, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. As Ibn Qudāmah raḥimahullah, he begins to mention, يستحب أن يدخل المكة من أعلاها ويدخل المسجد من باب بني شيبة اقتداء برسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And so, the person, what is mustahab, is that he enters Makkah, the individual entering into Makkah with the purpose of performing the Hajj al-Umrah, they enter from his highest point. And essentially, as Shaykh he mentions, the person will enter Makkah min al-Sharqiyya. So we enter Makkah from the east point. Why? Because this is essentially the highest point. And in the Sunnah, likewise from the Sunnah, is that the individual yakhruj min asfaliha. The individual will leave Makkah from its lowest point. However, this is not wajib. Thereafter, Ibn Qudāmah, he mentions that he enters from Bab Bani Shaybah, Bab al-Bani Shaybah. And so, this is muqabil, this is in front of the Hajar al-Aswad. He enters from this. Al-Bani Shaybah, anyone know who Bani Shaybah are? Who's Bani Shaybah? The tribe of Bani Shaybah. They are Bani Shaybah. No. Bani Shaybah. They are essentially the tribe that hold the key to the Kaaba. Now, the tribe that holds the key to the Kaaba. And so, thereafter, goes to mention, فإذا رأى البيت رفع يديه وكبر الله وهلله وحمده ودعاه. And so once he enters into the masjid and he sees the Kaaba. At this point, he raises his hands, praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or makes takbir and praises Allah ta'ala, and supplicates. And so this is, as mentioned here, al-adab al-thani. So it's the second mannerism for the one entering Makkah. So the second mannerism for the one entering Makkah. The first being what? Entering from the highest point. The second being the adab of when the person enters the masjid now and the dua that they're making. Naam, واضح? Thereafter, the person begins with Ṭawāf al-Umrah. إن كان مؤتمرا أو بالطواف القدوم إن كان مفردا أو قارنا. And so the person, he performs the tawaf. So he's entered, he's made dua, and then he begins the tawaf. Naam, going around the Kaaba. As for the tawaf that he's performing, then this is dependent upon what are the manasik that he is performing. And what are the rites that he's performing. So we said, essentially, if a person is performing tawaf, how many reasons could they be performing this tawaf? How many reasons? How many reasons? Well, how many reasons do you think that person could be performing tawaf? What are the reasons? And what are they after? 3 reasons? So Umrah? The Umrah and Hajj together, which is what? Hajj, Ifrat, no. Tamattu'. Okay, so Umrah or Hajj Tamattu', okay, that's 2 reasons. What else? The farewell tawaf. We're talking about, but this is the person entering now. So, 2. So for Umrah or Hajj Tamattu'? Type. Do you have any advance on 2? This person entering Makkah though. 4. There are 4. 4 reasons. Allah Ta'ala knows best. 1 is that the person is performing the tawaf for Umrah alone. It's just Umrah. Type. The second is that the person is performing the tawaf for the Umrah, however, with the intent of it being part of their Hajj, Tamatta'an. So they intend to perform the tawaf, they perform Umrah, but they intend that Umrah to be part of their Hajj, that they perform in the Hajj Tamattu'. The second would be what then? Tawaf for? Qiran. Naam, the tawaf, if they perform in Hajj Qiran. Taib. And then the tawaf, the final one. If they perform in Hajj Qiran, then this is the tawaf for Umrah as well, of course. Taib. And the last one. The last one. Because everyone needs a coffee today. The last one. Hajj al-Ifrat. Hajj al-Ifrat. And this tawaf is referred to the tawaf al-Qudūm. Naam, the tawaf where the person is approaching. Naam, the person is approaching Makkah. So these are the 4. Go through them again. Should we go through them again? طيب. So you have the Tawāf the person is performing for the Umrah, just performing Umrah alone. طيب. Which person does throughout the year. Then you have the Tawāf where the person is performing Tawāf for Umrah with the intent of Ḥajj, Tamattu'. Naam. So they intend to perform the Tawāf, do the action of Umrah, and then come out of Ihram. And then go back to Ihram when they perform the actions of Hajj, during the Ayam of Hajj. Naam. Then you have the third, which is the Tawāf. Again, Tawāf for Umrah, but again with the intent of Hajj, but for Hajj al-Qiran. Naam, for Hajj al-Qiran. So they intend to do the Tawāf, do the actions of Umrah, but remain in the state of Ihram. And then you have the final Tawāf, which is the Tawāf not of Umrah, but Tawāf of Hajj. And this Tawāf is the Tawāf al-Qudūm. The Tawāf when they are approaching Makkah. Now, so they've entered into Makkah. And then they perform this Tawāf. So just as we have the Tawāf, as mentioned by Abu Khalid, the Tawāf, the farewell Tawāf, Tawāf al-Wada', then we have the Tawāf al-Qudūm as well, the person performing Tawāf when they're approaching Makkah, when they come into Makkah. Now, this is the initial action. And so, these are the different types of, Tawāf the person does. So, he intends to perform the Tawāf. Thereafter, the upper part of his clothing, now, he places it under his arm, or to his armpit, exposing the shoulder, left shoulder. طيب. Exposing left shoulder. ويبدأ بحجر الأسود فيستمره ويقبله. And so he begins the Tawāf al-Hajr al-Aswad, at the black stone. He begins the Tawāf at the black stone. طيب. And so indeed in this scenario, he will make an indication towards it and kiss it. طيب. Ahlul Ilm, they mention, the scholars, they mention that if the person is not able to kiss the black stone, due to the izdiham, the large amount of people, the crowds, then the individual can suffice with the ishara. Now the individual can suffice with making an indication towards it, barakallahu fikum. Does it make sense? He doesn't have to, it's not a case of he has to kiss the black stone in order for that Tawāf to be correct or accepted. Rather, he performs the Tawāf by way of beginning at the black stone, and he can make some form of gesture towards it or point towards it with the hand and begin with that. Thereafter we call Bismillah Wallahu Akbar imanan bik wa tasdiqan bi kitabik wa wafa bi ahdik wa ittiba'a li sunnati nabiyyik Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so Ibn Qudāmah mentions a particular dua, and he mentions this dua that the person states when beginning Tawāf. Dua Bismillah Wallahu Akbar imanan bik wa tasdiqan bika or bi kitabika wa wafa bi ahdika wa ittiba' li sunnati nabiyyika Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hence this is where it begins. However, the most apparent is that this particular dua is not the dua which is mashru', and that what is mashru' is the takbir. Na'am, the takbir. The kalimatan, Allahu Akbar. That's what is legislated when the person performs the Tawāf. And so he begins, and the Bayt, say the Kaaba is on his left hand side. And he begins. And this is a shart, this is a condition for Tawāf. The Kaaba is on his left hand side. ويطوف سبعا. And so he performs the Ṭawāf 7 times. ولا بد منها. And Shaykh Fawzan, he mentions ولو نقص واحدا فلا بد أن يكمل ويأتي به. And so if, for example, one of them is deficient, so he does 6 instead of 7, then it's a must that he completes those 7. He does all 7. ولا يصح الطواف إلا بسبعة أشواط. And the Ṭawāf is not correct except with that 7 circuits, with the 7 circuits. And this is in accordance with the action of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter, he mentions ويرمل في الثلاثة الأول من الحجر إلى الحجر. So in the first 3 circuits, he goes around in a faster manner, yani a lighter jog. Now, so the first 3 circuits he goes around in a lighter jog. And so the first 3 essentially are going to be faster than the remaining 4. And he does so by way of this lighter or this light action with the taqarub al-khutwa. So each step they're close to each other. Each step is close to each other. So when essentially he's jogging around, he goes with each step close to one another. Now, as for the remaining 4, وَيَمْشِي. As for the remaining 4, then he walks around. So the remaining 4 circuits, he walks around. Now, and where he finds himself between the Hajar, يعني between the Rukn al-Yamani al-Hajar, then he states the dua ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Oh our Lord, grant us in the dunya that which is good, and the akhirah that which is good, and save us from the punishment of the hellfire. And that which has been narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That has been narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ويدعو في سائر بما أحب. And within this time of the Ṭawāf, he makes general dua as well. He makes general dua for anything or with anything that is to his liking, or that which he wishes to make dua for, what he wishes to supplicate for. And this is what he does within those circuits. So he makes dua for anything that he wishes, essentially. ثم يصلي ركعتين خلف مقام. Thereafter, he performs the salah, or performs 2 rak'ah, يعني rak'atayn, in the Maqam Ibrahim. In accordance with the ayah of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَصَلَّى. And they took Maqam Ibrahim, the station of Ibrahim, as a masalla, as a place of salah. And so this is, of course, with the scenario, or based on the scenario that the person has the ability to pray in that particular place. Why? Because the Maqam Ibrahim essentially is a small place in relation to the amount of people that generally will be there performing the Ṭawāf. So Ahlul Ilm, they mention that the person, he seeks to perform the salah at Maqam Ibrahim. وهذا سنة. Now this is from the Sunnah. However, if he's not able to do so, then it suffices with performing a rak'atayn anywhere within the masjid. Now, he performs a rak'atayn anywhere within the masjid. And thereafter, he goes back, يعود إلى الركن al-Yemeni, and points towards it. ويخرج إلى صفا. Then he goes to Safa. نعم, to the mountain of Safa. ويأتي من بابه. There's a particular gate that takes you towards Safa, now, which is to the side of the masjid. And this essentially is the beginning of the sa'i. And so the individual, ascends upon Safa. And it's from the sunnah of the sa'i that he ascends upon Safa, and ascends from Marwa as well, the two mounts. And so this is from the sunnah. This is actual sunnah. However, it's not a wajib. What is the wajib is the person completes the distance between the two, going between Safa and Marwa. Naam, going between Safa and Marwa, this is the wajib. As for the ascension, then this is from the sunnah of the action. Thereafter, the person makes dua and makes takbir whilst facing the Qibla. ويحلل by way of a statement, لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. He states, لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. Thereafter he descends and performs the sa'i. نعم. And so, within the sa'i as well, the action between Safa and Marwa, the individual performs this similar to the Ṭawāf, 7 circuits. Naam, 7 circuits. And then between Safa and Marwa, there is a portion where the individual will again yarmul. So he'll begin to traverse quickly. Naam, again with the steps, small steps between one another. And so this is a particular section between the two mounts. And then once he's left Safa and he does that, he reaches Marwa, he ascends and he does the same thing. Naam, takbir, the tahleel, as well as the dua. Naam. And then after that, he descends and he walks until it's at the point where he has to jog slightly. And so, essentially, if the person has done the sa'i correctly, then he will begin at Safa and end at Marwa. Naam, because it's 7 times. Sah? So, begins just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he ends at 7. Naam. And it's not as some people erroneously believe that it's Safa to Marwa, Marwa to Safa, that's 1. Naam. This is the error. But it's from one direction to the other, that's 1 circuit. And this is how the person concludes that. So he'll begin it at Safa and end the sa'i at Marwa. ثم يقصر من شعره إن كان مؤتمرا وقد حل. And then he will shorten the hair if he's performing Umrah. وإلا المتمتع إن كان معه الهدي والمفرد والقارن فإنه لا يحل. And so, except for the one that is mutamattu', or the mufrid or qarin, then he doesn't leave the state of ihram. But he shortens the hair. This is the end of the to signal the end of those actions. So, what are the two options when it comes to the hair? What are the two options? Is it a case that it always has to shorten? You shorten, you can shave it all. Naam. And which of the two is better? Shaving. Why? Sunnah? The shorten Sunnah too? You can say it's shorten the Sunnah too. But why would you say the shaving is better? The reward for every hair coming off? نظافة. يعني تكسير في نظافة إن شاء الله. Now, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he supplicated 3 times for the one that shaved off the hair. Whilst he sallallahu alaihi wasallam supplicated how many times for the one that shortened? Once. So the one that shortened, he alayhi salatu wasallam supplicated for them once. For the one that shaved, he supplicated them 3 times. So, however, here Ibn Qudāmah, he mentions the shortening specifically, and not the shaving. Why? Because you return to do it again. Because we mentioned 4 scenarios. 4 scenarios where a person would be doing the Ṭawāf and the sa'i. Sah? In all of them except for the Umrah, the person's going to be doing other manasik after that, for Hajj, which after that will need some form of cutting of the hair. So, and it'll be usually in a short space of time. Hence why, when a person is performing the manasik, or performing the Ṭawāf, and then performing the sa'i, and he concludes that, he shortens the hair in anticipation of the fact that it's gonna come a point where he's gonna have to shorten it again, or shave it again, at the end of the manasik al-Hajj, or some of the manasik of Hajj. So, this is why Ibn Qudāmah mentions here the shortening specifically. Naam, due to that which is ghalib, due to that which is takes precedence, and that which is the majority of the cases. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And Ibn Qudāmah finally mentions وَالْمَرْأَةِ كَالرَّجَلِ إِلَّا أَنَّهَا لَا تَرْمُلْ فِي الطَّوَافِ وَلَا سَعِي. And he mentions that the woman is like the man, except that she does not jog during the Ṭawāf nor the sa'i. Now, it's not required to do those particular actions from the woman. Allah Ta'ala knows best. And so everything that's been mentioned from these actions are for the woman to perform as well. Everything that's been mentioned are for the woman to perform. However, except for the jogging. Allah Ta'ala knows best. Would I advise anyone to let their wife shave their hair? But they take a small amount of hair, and that suffices with the ending of those actions.
Yeah, I don't want a bald like that.
No, so yeah, it can suffice with just the amount, the same amount of a fingertip. Now, essentially, in that case, in this scenario, it's just the significance of it is the case that you've cut something to signify that you've completed those manasik, you've completed those actions. Wallahu a'lam. No, but as Khuna Bukhari mentions, no one is the bald wife isn't matluba. You don't want a bald wife. Inshallah. No.
You know, with regards to the maqam of Ibrahim when you're going to pray to Allah,
Yes.
the person that will pray close to it is a had that he, even if he has to go further back, but so long as he's in line with it, or after that is just anywhere.
So generally, we understand from the
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
No. So a person, if you're not able to pray within the Maqam Ibrahim, then there's no significance of anywhere else that he prays. As long as he's praying within the masjid, then it suffices with that, inshallah. So the scenario that you mentioned where he prays in line with it, it wouldn't say that's even more, that holds more significance than anywhere else in the masjid. No. Wallah alam. No. Inshallah, next week, I believe we'll go on to the chapter regarding the Sifat al-Hajj, in the description of the Hajj. Now, this description of the Hajj of Prophet ﷺ. In the as we mentioned previously, tend to read through the hadith, the hadith of Jābir ibn Abdullah, where he describes the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, barakallahu feekum.